Welcome to Jehovah News, the premier destination for contemporary Christian faith developments. Courtesy of the members at Jehovah's House of Saints, we are committed to delivering the most recent and enriching updates designed to enhance your spiritual path. Remain abreast with us for your essential source of Christian news and enlightenment, all meticulously curated by our devoted team at Jehovah's House of Saints. We extend our gratitude for choosing Jehovah News. Enjoy our biblical story.
Have you ever wondered what the final days might look like, according to the scriptures? Picture this, a vision so profound and so deep it was set apart in the last book of the New Testament. We're talking about Revelation, specifically chapter 14, a passage that holds significant weight in the biblical narrative. This chapter, part of a larger apocalyptic text, reveals a vision of the end times as seen through the eyes of John. It's a tapestry woven with symbolism and prophecy, depicting scenes of divine judgment and redemption, of angels and beasts, of the Lamb, and the chosen 144,000. These verses are filled with imagery that challenges us to contemplate the nature of faith, the power of divine judgment, and the promise of a new beginning. This is not just a story, but a revelation of things to come. Let's dive into the verses and explore these profound revelations. Verse 1 to 5 introduces us to the Lamb and the 144,000, but who are they? This question sets us on a journey into the heart of Revelation, chapter 14. The Lamb symbolizes Jesus Christ, standing on Mount Zion, a representation of the heavenly Jerusalem. With him are 144,000, a symbolic number representing completeness and divine perfection. These chosen ones bear the name of the Father on their foreheads, a sign of ownership and protection, a seal that sets them apart. They sing a new song, a melody of redemption and salvation, a hymn so divine that no one else could comprehend. This song, unique to them, speaks volumes about their special relationship with the Lamb, their Redeemer. These chosen ones are pure, untouched by the corruptions of the world. They are described as virgins, a metaphor for spiritual cleanliness. They follow the Lamb wherever he goes, indicating their unyielding loyalty and unwavering faith. They are the first fruits, the first redeemed from mankind, consecrated to God and the Lamb. Their mouths are free of deceit, their lives a testimony of truth and righteousness. They stand faultless before the throne of God, an emblem of spiritual perfection. These verses create a vivid image of the chosen ones, but what follows next is equally intriguing. As we delve deeper into the mystical visions of Revelation, we encounter angels, messages from heaven, and prophetic warnings, all leading us to a grand climax of divine judgment and salvation. Verses 6 to 8 takes us to the proclamation of the everlasting gospel and the fall of Babylon. What does this mean? Our journey through Revelation 14 introduces us to another angel, this one soaring through the midst of heaven carrying a message of eternal significance, the everlasting gospel. This divine messenger is tasked with a global mission. His audience, every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. It's a universal call to fear God, give glory to him, and to worship the Creator of all things. The everlasting gospel then is a message of awe and reverence, a call to recognize the majesty and authority of the divine. It's an invitation to return to the original worship, to acknowledge God as the source of life and the architect of heaven, earth, sea, and all waters. It's a reminder of his sovereignty, even in times of deep uncertainty and profound change. But what about the fall of Babylon? Here, another angel follows, declaring the collapse of that great city. Babylon, in biblical terms, often symbolizes a system of worldliness and spiritual departure, a stark contrast to the kingdom of God. Its fall, therefore, signifies a monumental shift, a collapse of old ways, and the failure of human systems that stand in opposition to God's principles. The phrase "Babylon is fallen" is repeated twice for emphasis, underscoring the certainty and finality of this event. Babylon's downfall comes because she made all nations drink the wine of the wrath of her fornication. This wine represents the intoxicating allure of sin, leading entire nations astray. So the proclamation of the everlasting gospel and the fall of Babylon are interwoven. One calls for a return to true worship, while the other signals the end of false systems of worship. They are two sides of the same coin, a call to righteousness and a warning against spiritual apostasy. The fall of Babylon signifies a crucial turning point, but the warnings don't end here. Verses 9 to 11 bring a stern warning to the worshippers of the beast. What is this beast and what does the warning entail? The beast, as depicted in the book of Revelation, is often interpreted as an embodiment of worldly power and evil, a figure that lures people away from the path of righteousness. It's a symbol, a metaphor for the destructive forces that work against the divine plan. The mark of the beast mentioned in these verses represents allegiance to this destructive power. It's a sign of choosing the temporal over the eternal, the earthly over the divine. It's a choice that, according to these verses, leads to torment and suffering. What is this torment? It's described as drinking the wine of the wrath of God, a potent symbol of divine judgment. It's a torment of fire and brimstone, an image that evokes both physical pain and spiritual despair. In the presence of the holy angels and the Lamb, the worshippers of the beast are said to suffer their torment ascending like smoke forever and ever. This is a chilling image, one that underscores the seriousness of the choice that these verses ask us to consider. Are we to follow the beast, to accept its mark and face the wrath of God? Or are we to follow the Lamb, to choose the path of righteousness and receive the blessings of the divine? These verses remind us that our choices have consequences, that our actions in this life reverberate into the next. They call us to reflect on our allegiances, to consider what we worship and why. They challenge us to choose wisely, to choose the path that leads to divine favor rather than divine wrath. In the broader context of Revelation, these verses serve as a stark warning against the temptations of worldly power and the perils of turning away from God. They remind us of the eternal stakes of our temporal choices. This graphic image of divine judgment serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of turning away from God. In verses 12 to 20, we encounter the patience of the saints and the harvest of the earth. How are these connected? Well, let's delve into the text. Verse 12 introduces us to the saints' patience. These are individuals who, despite the tribulations they face, continue to keep the commandments of God and maintain their faith in Jesus. Their patience isn't passive. It's an active, courageous endurance. It's a commitment to stand firm in their faith, even when the world around them is in chaos. Now, this notion of patience isn't just about waiting. It carries the weight of hope, the expectation of a divine intervention. And this is where the harvest of the earth comes into play. As we move to verse 14, we see a vision of someone like the Son of Man seated on a cloud with a golden crown on his head, holding a sharp sickle. This image, deeply rooted in agricultural symbolism, represents the final judgment. The harvest is ripe, indicating that the time for judgment has come. An angel emerges from the temple and commands the one on the cloud to reap the harvest of the earth. In response, the one on the cloud swings his sickle across the earth, and the earth is reaped. This signifies that the time of waiting, the period of patience, is over. The judgment has arrived, but there's more. Another angel, also bearing a sharp sickle, is instructed to gather the clusters of the vine of the earth because the grapes are ripe. These grapes are then thrown into the great winepress of God's wrath, symbolizing the final judgment upon the wicked. These final verses bring us to a climactic close. But what can we take away from this chapter? The patience of the saints and the harvest of the earth remind us that faith involves waiting, enduring, and hoping. And these actions are not in vain, for a time of reckoning will come. But that's a conversation for another time. So what can we learn from Revelation 14? This chapter leaves us with several key takeaways. It begins with the Lamb and the 144,000 standing on Mount Sion. The significance here is immense. It is a symbol of unwavering faithfulness, the Lamb's followers having his Father's name written on their foreheads, signifying their loyalty and devotion. Next, we are introduced to the everlasting gospel, the angel flying in the midst of heaven, preaching unto all that dwell on the earth. This is an all-encompassing message of salvation, a call to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. It is a call to fear God, to give Him glory, and to worship Him. The chapter also talks about the fall of Babylon and the torment of the beast's worshippers. It is a stark reminder of the consequences of turning away from God. Those who choose to drink from the wine of the wrath of God shall face torment and suffering. Yet, in the midst of these dire warnings, we find hope. The patience of the saints is highlighted. Those who keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus are blessed. And ultimately, the harvest of the earth is reaped, symbolizing the triumph of good over evil. While Revelation may seem daunting, its message is one of hope and assurance for those who remain faithful.